episode 140 of the podcast. This week we'll be talking about why some dogs have issues with foot handling and nail care and what we can do to work on it. You're listening to the Creating Great Grooming Dogs podcast. I'm Chrissy Newmeyer-Smith. I'm a certified professional groomer, a certified behavior consultant for canines, a certified professional dog trainer, and the owner of Happy Critters in Nashua, New Hampshire. And this, my friends and colleagues, is the podcast where grooming and training meet. Nail trimming, nail grinding, and those darned feet. It's so common for dogs to have a hard time with nail care. And I hear it all the time. I hear it from groomers. I hear it from owners. This is a really, really common problem. Now, one of the problems that we need to talk about first is that there is a difference between us, the human in this interaction, having a hard time getting the nails done, and what the dog is having trouble with. There's a difference. We become really laser focused on what it is we're trying to get done. So we're trying to get a nail trim done, and that's where our problem lies. But that might not be what the dog is responding to. That might not be what's going on. So the dog is having trouble with something different. And when we think about that, that'll help us. So let's start off with what we often miss is that the dog is having a hard time with something entirely different. And I know I have heard it over and over and over again. Nope, it's nail trimming. That's the part he has trouble with. But I'm going to give you some things to look for and things to think about because in my experience, it's not usually the nail trimming. In my experience, that is not usually the problem. I know someone out there is like, what? I have owners watch me do what I'm doing. And they're like, nope, it's going to be the nails. And it's not the nails. And every single time, they're like, what just happened? Because we're trying to get nail trimming done, but they're responding to something very, very different. So how did I come to this conclusion? Again, experience. Lots and lots of times trying this, but watching for something different. Watching everything that's going on at the same exact time. And I encourage you to look for some of these things. So imagine a dog on your grooming table, a dog in front of you. Maybe it's a dog that you know has problems with his nail trimming, or you have trouble getting the dog's nails done, more specifically. But there's a dog on your table. When you go to pick up that foot, is that dog calm, comfortable, and cooperative? Just picking up the foot. Whatever it is you have to do to reach around, to reach under, to whatever way you do it, does this dog start off calm, comfortable, and cooperative or not? And then when you do pick up a foot, what happens next? What we often are doing for nail trimming is that we pick feet up in a very different way for nail trimming than we do for other types of foot care and other types of foot handling. And I want you to really think about that. Give it a moment to let that process. Because when we pick up a foot to, say, shave pads, we pick it up differently than we do for nail trimming. When we pick up a foot to scissor around the edge, we do it differently than we do for nail trimming. When we pick up a foot to brush or to comb or to dry or to scrub, we do it differently than we do for nail trimming. The way we pick up a foot for nail trimming is really specific. And we all have slightly different ways of doing it, but it is different than the other types of foot handling that we do. And it's very different from the types of foot handling that most owners are doing at home. Because let's face it, most owners, when they're at home, they're sitting back on the couch and their dog is like a Roman emperor being fed food while they massage toes. It has nothing to do with the reality of what's going to happen in a grooming shop. I'm not saying that's bad. I'm just saying that owners need to build on that till it looks something close to what a dog's going to have to go through. Anyway, when we get away from the Roman emperor being fed while somebody massages his feet, we need to think about the dog is going to be held very specifically for nail trimming. So I look at the way that the dog starts off. Is this dog calm, comfortable, and cooperative already? Now let's say I have a dog on my table and I like to pick up my front feet almost like picking up horse hooves. So I'm raising their foot toward their belly instead of doing it from in front. When I'm grinding, I like doing it from in front, where I'm raising their foot, extending it in front of them. But when I'm nail trimming, I like to do it from underneath. When I reach for a dog and hold their foot underneath, I'm checking to see, are they calm, comfortable, and cooperative? Because, and let me fill you guys in on this, a lot of the time what you will notice is that you get a little bit of squirming, a little bit of adjusting, a little bit of pulling away. And those are signs of discomfort, not necessarily a refusal, not necessarily a dog who is fighting with you. And I think we need to think about when we are picking up a foot, yes, they have 3 others to stand on. But when we pick up one foot, a dog sometimes just needs to get their balance. You just lifted a leg. Give them the chance to shift their weight. Give them the chance. Run it through that filter of, is this dog calm, comfortable, and cooperative? Because you might think, oh, I picked up a foot and he started to wiggle and, oh, that's not calm. But that's also not comfortable, right? It's not cooperative, but it's also not comfortable. So for many, many dogs, giving them the chance to adjust and shift their weight and then proceed is enough to totally change that nail trim. You would be surprised how many dogs just need someone to give them the chance to adjust their little body so that they can figure out how to balance while we do a nail trim. A lot of it is balance. And why wouldn't it be? Right? But what I often see is this tendency to hold on tighter, pull harder, maybe give the stern no, and really kind of forcing it, thinking that the dog is trying to refuse, which, if you are losing your balance and someone pulls it harder, tighter, higher, think about it, that's not going to regain balance. So the dog naturally becomes worse. How weird is that, right? So they become worse. So it's not always a refusal. Now, I'm going to get a little bit into our own heads here. Confession time. As a clumsy human, because I am a very clumsy human, if someone were to lift my foot while I was standing, I would wobble around a little bit and need to get my balance. Now, if they said no and pulled it higher or further out, that's not going to help me get my balance. I'm going to turn into a flailing lunatic. Think about it. If someone's putting you off balance, you'd be like, whoa, 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 let me get my balance. And sometimes we actually hear dogs doing that. Rawr, rawr, rawr. It's not all that different from the whoa, 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 let me get my balance. I know, very anthropomorphic, but let's relate. Let's relate to this. Okay? So what happens in my instincts as a clumsy human who feels like they're going to fall over? What is my instinct? My instinct is get both my feet back on the floor. A dog's instinct, if they're unbalanced, is to get their feet back on the floor or back on the table. But they get their feet back down onto a surface. That's their instinct. And it's not even so much that they're thinking about it, just that, what do you do if you're losing your balance? You want to have more security. Now, here's another one. If you will notice that when the dog can't put their foot down and you're pulling on them, sometimes what they do for balance is they pull against the grooming loop. Oh, right. So think about how many dogs pull backwards on the grooming loop or spin to the side so that they can be leaning up against the grooming loop. They're using it like a railing. They're using it for balance. They're using it like if you were to pick up my foot and I would try to reach for a wall. They're using it for balance, but then it turns into, oh my God, now he's cranking on his neck, But so often, really think about it, so often what we have going on is a balance issue. Balance. So that's one of the real common ones that I see involving nail trimming, is just simply allowing them to get their balance. So thinking about that, I want you to think now some really common problems that we see. So let's think about the Shih Tzu with the really crooked legs. Probably some pain going on in those joints, but also that dog isn't well built. That little Shih Tzu or that Basset Hound, the dogs with the Dachshund, the dogs with the really weirdly shaped legs, that dog is going to have trouble balancing. And it doesn't matter that there are 3 other feet. That dog probably has trouble balancing on all 4. So think about how we can help them regain their balance, give them something to balance on. I often let dogs lean against me, or if I'm doing a back foot, I try to support their weight with my forearm so that they have something to lean into. They aren't being asked to stand entirely on their own before I really start trimming, before I adjust to laser focus on toenails. Again, it's different than when we're scissoring or brushing or scrubbing or clippering. We really get in there and try to look at each individual toe, and we have to kind of separate toes out a little bit to do that. It's a different procedure. It's very different than the other things, and that leads us to believe it's about the nail trimming, but it's not. For so many dogs, it's about the holding. Now, another example, let's imagine another common example, that 1-year-old doodle that's terrible for their nails. They have balance issues too, partly because at a year old, they're lanky and clumsy. As a clumsy human, I remember being a lanky, clumsy teenager. So think about that dog. Different reasons. That dog might be really well built, but at this age, this dog is not really coordinated. And we're trying to lift up a foot, and we're trying to ask them to balance in a way that they find really uncomfortable or really awkward, or in some cases nearly impossible, because they're like a baby deer on ice, you know? Like, look at the dog in front of you and think about how coordinated they are. Now, that doesn't mean that a very athletic dog is going to be like totally fine with everything we need to do. They still need to adjust their balance. But if we stop and step back and think about, did we have calm, comfortable, and cooperative to begin with? And where did it change? And run it through those steps. Yeah, he's not being cooperative, but is he also not comfortable? Is that part of why we're not getting cooperative? And is the dog actually trying to get away from you, or is the dog just trying to flail around and get their balance? If you're enjoying this podcast, please remember to subscribe so that you don't miss any episodes, and tell all of your friends. The next part of nail trimming is that we often forget that it's really different than other types of foot handling. And I mentioned that before, but let's mention it some more. Because when we talk a dog through a nail trim, that can help a lot. And what do I mean by talking them through? Well, there are a lot of steps to a nail trim. So let's break it down. And I'm going to break it down the way that I do for dogs. So what I do when I have a dog on my table is I'll often like, okay, this foot, ready? Are you ready? Which is something I'll ask dogs a lot. Are you ready? If they're not ready, I let them adjust. Are you ready? But when I lift a leg, I open my thumb and see if they're going to rest their leg there. Ooh, what just happened there, right? Now I'm checking for cooperative. I'm also checking for comfortable. If I can get them to relax into my hand, open my thumb, they have the choice to pop away and do not. Then I can work my way down to their foot in the way that I'm going to hold their toe, this toe, and I'll talk them through a nail trim. Now, I'm also being very aware of range of motion because that's very individual, but I find that a lot of us are trying to see a toenail and aren't noticing that we're taking a dog far out of their range of motion. We're flexing them hard, or we're extending their foot weird. You know, we need to be aware that the dog needs to be comfortable. We adjust ourselves. We don't try to put our dogs into weird shapes that they can't do. That's a lot of the nail trim problem. So, anyway, that being said, being aware of what this dog is comfortable with is part of me opening my hand, giving them the chance to tell me if this is comfortable or not. I know, and people are going to say, oh, he's not gonna stay for that. A lot of the time they do. Give them something to balance on. Sometimes I'll have them balance up against my body so that they feel like, oh, okay, I can rest my hip up against your body while you're doing that thing. They instead of cranking on their own neck with the grooming loop. But I pick up the foot, then I get down to that foot, and I'll touch it with my finger and say, this toe. Touch that toenail with my finger. Then I line up my clippers with the clippers, and I'll say, with the clippers, or line it up. Sometimes I say line it up. And when I do that, I put the clipper on the nail where I want it to be, and close it just enough for the dog to feel where it's closed. All right, now I don't know what they can feel and what they can't feel, but I can tell you when I close it there without trying to actually do the nail trimming, when I close it in that spot, if it is going to be too close, dogs who are perfect angels for nail trims will wiggle a little bit. And I'm like, oh, would that have been too close? Okay, I will move it further out. Which really, if you aren't a groomer, you might not realize this, but sometimes that just comes in as dogs get older and they're wearing their nails down differently on each foot. Like the outer nails are now getting longer, and you can't necessarily take the same amount off of each nail on a back foot because the longer one in the back, also the quick is really long because that nail is just not getting used very much during walks. There are a lot of changes that happen in feet. So once in a while, I go to line it up and say, okay, this toe, line it up. And the dog wiggles just a smidge, just to tell me they're not ready. And I readjust. I readjust myself. I decide to take off less. Okay, this toe, line it up. And I press the nail clipper without actually doing the nail clipping. Just press it up against there. Think about if somebody put a clamp on your finger, you would know, oh, that's on my finger versus on my fingernail. So I ask them, line it up. And then I say the words, and snip, while I snip it. And we pause there. You will be surprised if I can get a dog calm, comfortable, and cooperative, and then walk them through this process. Dogs that we've always been told, hate having nail trims, hate having nail trimming, aren't worried about the nail trimming. It was all the other stuff around it. So if it's a dog with a long history of feeling like this is something that's scary, of course they're going to react to the nail clippers. Of course they're going to react to the process, because who wouldn't, right? Like, oh no, not that again. Oh, I hate this part. Feeling of dread. I know, very anthropomorphic, but think about it. Think about it. So if I can get them calm, help them balance, tell them exactly what I'm going to do, give them a little bit of wiggle room. Are you ready? And if they're not ready, then I need to calm them again. Are you ready? This toe. With the clippers, line it up. Are you ready? And snip. Or this toe. Are you ready? Oh, you're not ready. Okay, let's calm down again. Let's relax. Okay, this toe with the clippers. I'm going to line it up. Nope, you're not ready. Okay, let's calm down again. All right, let's get your balance. This toe with the clippers. Line it up and snip. You would be surprised how often it works that way. Give them a couple chances to calm down, to be calm, and snip. And if it's dog with a long history of having problems with nail trimming, I might do just one nail. Ready? This toe, line it up, and snip. Nice, and put the foot down. That was good. And work on something else. Especially if they're coming in for a full groom. It's not like you need to do every nail all at the same time. Work on something else. Let me go back to brushing your ear. And then go back to that back foot. Okay, this foot. Ready? Pick it up. You calm. Nice. All right, we're going to do this toe. And line it up and snip. And this toe. And line it up and snip. At each step, I am waiting for calm, comfortable, and cooperative. I open my palm. I see if that dog is still choosing to let their leg and their foot be cradled in my hand. I adjust my body position and my needs for them. So it's not like I'm going to crank that foot backwards. I need to get this because I don't know if there's a point that might be sore. A lot of dogs have sore feet, have sore legs, have trouble balancing. So if we talk them through it, you would be surprised how many dogs were never responding to the nail trim. It was all the other stuff around the nail trim. Now, the same is not true for dremeling. I find some dogs actually prefer dremeling, but for a lot of dogs, I think that vibration is just too much. The vibration of a Dremel, they're like, ah, and they do actually respond to the Dremel. In that case, I will go ahead and just do nail clipping and sit there and like pick a little bit. You can still do some shaping with nail clippers. But dremeling, yeah, I think that a lot of dogs have a preference for dremeling or for nail clipping. So I try either, see what they think, give them the chance to tell you what they're more comfortable with. Because at the end of the day, if it's nail clipping or nail dremeling, we're still meeting their nail care needs, which is an important need. That's another reason why we need to really work on nail clipping. Owners need to know that good, healthy feet can affect their dog's whole body. So if nails are getting really long, I'll give you my quick nail trim talk that I give my owners. If nails are getting long, for a dog to have the weight of their body on the pads of their feet, they will need to either flatten their toes to get their nails out of the way or twist their toes to get the nails out of the way. And when they flatten or twist, they're affecting all of the other joints all the way up their leg, all the way through their shoulders, through their hips, and in their back. So it affects their whole body. So when owners are like, well, he hates it and we just bring him in when they're really getting bad, we need to talk to those owners about, every dog's a little different, but generally I want you to be thinking about once a month for nail trims. But he walks on sidewalks and you know what? It doesn't necessarily wear down their nails. We need to be looking at their nails and doing something about their nails on a regular basis. And if we spend time talking them through it, maybe this is a dog that you will always, always, always talk them through it. But if talking them through it helps it get it done, then let's do that. I just see it as a win. So if you are picking up a foot and helping the dog become comfortable and cooperative and thinking about comfort, thinking about their balance, and then you're looking at an individual toe and you're telling them, this toe's next with the grinder. Are you ready? There are lots of different grinders out there too. I will say I really, really love the Dymagroove diamond bits. And I have noticed that some dogs that didn't like dremeling with the sanding discs, with the more traditional sanding discs, liked the Dymagroove. I'm basing that entirely on the way that they react to it. Like they're like, oh yeah, okay, this thing isn't as bad. I really like the Dymagroove bits. They're expensive, but you know what? I think I've had one for 3 or 4 years now. It's going to last me forever. It's lasted longer than a couple of Dremels. So be thinking about like the comfort level of different tools that we use. And then I have another little Dremel that does have a sanding disc, but it's one for crafting, and it is so super quiet that for the smaller dogs that are a little bit worried about sound, it almost makes like a high-pitched hum. And I can put it on low and get them used to the feeling of dremeling. And that's pretty cool for some of the little dogs. There are a variety of ways that we can help make them comfortable. So I want you to think about some dogs, it's lifting their legs in front of them. Some dogs, it's asking them to lie down so you can do their nails. And for some dogs, I will do their nails in the tub while they're in the tub because they aren't yet at the point where they've had a long duration of challenges. But also I think that for a lot of dogs, when they're in the tub, the nails are soft. And for some dogs, I think it's more comfortable than that loud kind of snap and something pops off. It's just a little bit softer and you can do their nails in the tub. Play around with the variety of ways to help a dog be comfortable. And sometimes I have an owner or another groomer just cradle that dog in their arms. But I have to tell them, I don't need you to restrain this dog. This isn't about clamping down. This isn't about holding hard. This is about cradling this dog so that I can get around to doing those nails in whatever position that leg is already in. So it usually ends up me being kneeling on the floor while someone stands and I'm just working on nails in whatever position that dog wants to put its leg in. So we have a variety of ways that we can help a dog be comfortable, and we have a variety of tools that we can use. And if it's a matter of like being uncomfortable with a loud grinder, then we can use a quieter grinder. Or maybe we can do a grinder while the dryer is still running. I do that a lot, actually. Come to think of it, since we're sharing tips, while the dryer is still going, I'll use that to help drown out the sound of the Dremel. Even at people's homes, you put the high velocity dryer, hold it between your knees, and you start dremeling nails. There are lots of ways that we can help dogs feel more comfortable with the nail trimming process if we are aware that it's a comfort problem. It's a comfort problem and it's a physical, their whole body involved in being comfortable, not just the nail trim. That's where most of us end up feeling like well, he doesn't like the nail trim and this is just getting worse and worse and worse because we're not addressing comfort. So let's address comfort and see what happens. If you'd like more information, you can find me at chrissy@happycritters.net, happycrittersdogtraining.com, or you can join the Facebook group, Creating Great Grooming Dogs podcast, or the Facebook page, Creating Great Grooming Dogs. I really look forward to hearing from you.